Thank you so much for having me here. This is amazing. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, well, this for us is important. I mean, at Converge, we've always understood that we needed to create that bridge of understanding so that we really do create whatever we can and do our part so that people are informed voters. But this is exciting to think about what you may be able to bring to Seattle Municipal Court. Tell us a bit about your background.
Okay, so originally born in Jamaica. I lived there till I was about 7, grew up in Miami. That's where my parents live, and went to school at Howard University in Washington,
Go
D.C. Go
Bisons.
Bison. Went to, graduated, moved out to Seattle for my first, I was in business. I was a business major, moved to Seattle, lived here for 6 months, loved it because I was here during the summer. Moved back to the East Coast, but when I moved here initially, I met my husband, moved back to the East Coast, and then moved back for law school. So I went to Seattle University Law School, and I've been working for the city of Seattle for the last 12 years. And in that capacity, I've worked as a prosecutor, and now I'm in an advisory capacity where I've advised the many city departments, including the mayor's office, including parks, including the police department. And over the last few years, becoming a judge has always been the next step. I've been pro temping for the last 3 years, and have gotten a really deep understanding as to how the courts have worked and how other parts of the Seattle system work. And honestly, one day I was like, stop talking about it and be about it.
Mm.
This is your time. You are well informed as to what's happening in the city. You understand the criminal justice system. You understand the community. And what are you waiting for?
Mm.
So that is why I decided to join the race in position 7. I know that I have a lot to bring to the table. I have a business background, so I understand some of the components in regards to that people don't necessarily see, right? The parts of the budget, the parts of that the court has to do in terms of building its budget and talking to city council, but also the parts in the sense of what the court's doing in the courtroom, and how certain courts are built and how they deal with individuals who are committing crimes. And honestly, coming out of COVID, I've really just seen some things that I think we can definitely do better and better serve the community.
Yeah, this is important. I mean, I think we're kind of dealing with a time right now where a lot of people are getting more and more informed on not just their rights, but on
Mhm.
things that have historically not been serving communities.
Mhm.
And we,
Mhm.
understand that there are parts of the criminal justice system. Some folks say criminal injustice, right? In Black community in particular, I hear that a lot
Mhm.
because there's so many different examples of
Absolutely.
how these systems are not serving us. How do
Mhm.
you really see bringing all of your expertise into this position to
Mhm.
really help address those issues?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and it's hard. It is hard. I mean, there is the intersectionality of race, of socioeconomic, of mental health. There's so many components that come to issues with the injustice justice system. And I think, well, I know that my role as a judge, especially over the last few years as pro temping, when I get on the bench, we're all on the same. We're all the same. And I think that's where you have to start. And unfortunately, I think people of color, sometimes they didn't get that initial privilege of we're all on the same playing field, regardless of what you look like. You're coming into the court, let's see what's happening, let's look at the facts, but you don't get a ding just because of what you look like. And I think that's a start, right? I think that is a start where people can come into court and feel as if they're going to get a fair shot. Additionally, I think there's also a component of the cultural differences, the ethnic differences. We're all different. Yeah, as I said, I come from Jamaica. We're vibrant, loud, lovely people, but different.
Yeah.
And those cultural differences are what make us great, but sometimes that's, if you're not in a culturally diverse area, sometimes those get misunderstood.
Mhm.
So for myself, when I'm on the bench or even when I'm in court, just realizing that we're all different people and we all aren't necessarily going to react the same to certain things. And that's why I'm really trying to get back to an individualized approach to judicial decision making. Just because you commit a theft and I commit a theft, we may be in completely different spaces. So maybe we shouldn't be having the same um, conditions, right? So really individualizing how we approach people who are committing crimes.
I think that's really important here. Oftentimes there's this blanketed approach. Well, I'll say this: it seems to be, from the outside looking in, that there's a blanketed approach, but it's still with its own inherent bias.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there, I think, is the question that a lot of folks have. I mean, some talk about the need for diverse representation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which I
Mm-hmm.
do think is key, because bringing in a diverse representation
Mm-hmm.
allows for me, if I come to court and I come to your courtroom, maybe I'm like, okay, I don't have to have my entire defenses up.
Mm-hmm.
I understand I'm facing some charges, but there's some level of me just being able to relax a little bit in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, because
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm thinking, you know what, as a Black woman, maybe she understands a little bit. So I want to be able to connect. When you end up having a body of judges
Mm-hmm.
that don't reflect levels of diversity, then immediately, if you don't look alike, sometimes you come in thinking, oh my gosh, they're not going to understand anything I'm saying. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's something about that too. And when you talk about this individualized approach, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, tell us a bit about what goes into something like that. Is this about, as a judge, you get, these cases coming to you, you get a moment to really review
Mm-hmm.
the evidence in the cases, right? But also you have lawyers on both sides, attorneys that are kind of telling you more and more of the details, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit about how, as a judge, you can really utilize all the information before you to create that individualized approach.
Great. So how the system works, or how a case comes to the court, is the prosecutor files the case. The court determines if there's probable cause, meaning, okay, is there sufficient evidence to move forward? Fast forward, let's say the person ends up pleading guilty or taking it to trial, then the court is the one who makes the decision as to conditions of sentencing. Or I guess I'll back up, conditions of release even before we get to sentencing. So when making conditions of release, the defense will likely advocate for, release. And there is a presumption of release for all cases except for like murder.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a presumption of release. The prosecutor may make some argument as to why release isn't appropriate, or release without making a bail or bond or something like that. And the defense will make an argument, and then the court can then look at someone's history and look at maybe someone's failure to appear history, or depending on the type of crime, make a determination whether they feel as if this person may commit a dangerous crime if there's no conditions of release are set. So that's an important part, determining whether or not someone gets released. Most people will come back to court, hopefully. Some do not.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see that, then you have to make another determination, like how can we potentially get this person back into court? And there's other least restrictive means, like, okay, does this person go on EHM, or does this person do day reporting? So all those components lead into the beginning of the case.
EHM, electric home monitoring.
Sorry, electronic home monitoring,
Yeah.
yes. And day reporting is when maybe someone comes back to the court just to check in, saying, hey, I'm still around, a couple days a week or something, depending, again, it's all dependent on that person's return history.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have no history at all, then absolutely, presumption of release is you're released on your personal recognizance. Then it goes to, let's say, trial, or someone enters a plea. And I think those are the parts that people really don't quite understand, where courts or judges have great discretion, which is why I specifically am running for municipal court, because I feel like I would have far greater discretion to determine those sort of conditions, whereas superior court, they have to follow a lot of specific rules when it comes to sentencing guidelines. Seattle Municipal Court doesn't have that.
Mm.
So I feel as if I would have far more options to provide to individuals. And at the end of the day, what I want to see is that for people to do better.
Mhm.
And how can we get better? And I think in trying to get there, people do have to take accountability, but accountability, we can take accountability and still lift each other up.
Mhm.
And that's really what I'm all about. Like, there's community out there who is being affected by crime. And in my day job, I talk to community often, and they have really felt like no one in the criminal justice system is hearing them.
Yeah.
They feel as if the court is not concerned about what happens to victims. And that's concerning to me, because the court is supposed to weigh and balance the whole community, including the defendant, but also the people, the everyday people who are just trying to go to work and do their jobs, where, you know, they may be victims of assaults or whatever have you. I mean, I live in the city. My car's been vehicle proud. My house has been burgled, you know, so I understand that. But even then, right? Like, if someone commits a crime, that doesn't mean they're a throwaway person, and we can still help people.
Yeah. I mean, this is important. And the message sometimes gets lost. I wish I had even more time, because there's so many questions I have, particularly because we are seeing that what you just described in terms of the Supreme Court and these kind of regulations they have to follow. Look at what we're dealing with at a national level. This is like the most important time to have diverse representation at a local level. The fact that you are running for municipal court, and what you just described there, because that was going to be one of my questions, like, why municipal, right?
Mhm.
But I love that you're saying, no, that gives me the opportunity to really understand these individual nuances with every case, and really bring that about in your judgment. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that you are running. I think
Mhm.
it's important, for people to understand what you're standing on. And, this is that next leg of the campaign. So I'm giving you positive vibes
Thank
here.
you.
But I want to give you a moment to look right there, make sure folks know how they can support you, learn more,
Mhm.
and follow your campaign.
Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. Running an election or a campaign is difficult. However, I am excited to be doing it, and I know this is my path. Follow me on electnyjat.com, elect Nyjat at Instagram, and elect Nyjat at Facebook. And you can find all the information about me on electnyjat.com. Thank you so much.
Oh, Nyjat Rose-Akins. Thank you. Thank you for running. Thank you for putting your name in this amazing hat. It's needed. And again, if you have any updates, you let me know. We'll keep space for you here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.